Chapter 9, Lesson 4, The Northwest Territory, page 367. Over time, thousands of Americans followed the Ohio River west and settled the lands north of it. That area became known as the Northwest Territory. A territory is a land that belongs to a nation but is not a state and is not represented in the national government governing the land. At first, there was no plan for how the land in the territory should be divided. It was hard to tell where each person's property ended. In 1785, Congress passed a new land ordinance, or a set of laws. The ordinance explained how land in the territory would be measured, divided, and sold. Land was first measured into squares called townships. Each township was then divided into 36 smaller squares or sections. In 1787, Congress passed another ordinance called the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. It set up a plan for governing the Northwest Territory and for forming new states from the land. When any region of the Northwest Territory had more than 60,000 people, it could become a state. The ordinance promised settlers freedom of religion. It also said that slavery would not be allowed in states formed from the Northwest Territory. How did the Northwest Ordinance affect slavery? Here you can see how each piece was chopped into a township, and each township was a grid of 1 mile by 1 mile, 36 total. I don't know why that one's not showing. Battles for land. In the months after the Revolutionary War, the British left many of their forts in the West. Without the British help, it became harder for Native Americans to stop settlers from moving onto their lands. New fighting breaks out. Native Americans in the Northwest Territory used to fight against the new settlers. Their leaders included Michikiwakan, also known as Little Turtle, a member of the Miami tribe in what are now Ohio and Indiana. In the early 1790s, Native American forces soundly defeated the United States soldiers in battles in what are now the states of Indiana and Ohio. In 1794, a larger United States force won a major victory at the Battle of Fallen Timbers, near what is now Toledo, Ohio. More lands are taken. In 1795, Michikiwata and the leaders of the other tribes agreed to accept the Treaty of Greenville. In this treaty, they gave up most of the land in the Northwest Territory. Many Native Americans were angry that the United States demanded their lands. After the treaty was signed, they stopped trusting the United States government. Their trust was lost. Some Native Americans sold their land to land companies. The Holland Land Company, for example, wanted to buy much of the land in western New York from the Seneca Indians. The Seneca leader Sacoyawath, also known as Red Jacket, warned his tribe not to sell its land. However, other leaders ignored his advice and signed the Big Tree Treaty, which let the company buy most of the Seneca's land. In the years to come, settlers from the United States moved farther and farther west. They cleared the land for farms and towns. The lives of the Native Americans would never be the same. The effect of the Treaty of Greenville lost the trust of the Native Americans, and rightly so. The United States government did not treat them well or fairly, and they ended up losing their way of life and their land. After the Revolutionary War, states wrote constitutions. Views on slavery changed. Western settlement led to land policies and fights. More fighting with the Native Americans.